picture this, right? You're sitting at table 12. You're in your best clothes, maybe, like picking at a somewhat mediocre side salad.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. And there's this low hum of chatter filling the room. And then
Yeah.
suddenly someone tacks a glass.
Here we go.
They step up to the microphone. They take this deep breath to speak. And instantly, just a piercing 10,000 hertz screech of feedback absolutely shatters the room.
Ouch. Yeah, that is the worst.
Half the guests physically cover their ears. The speaker looks terrified. And that emotional magic of that once-in-a-lifetime moment, completely dead on arrival.
It's gone. The spell's broken.
Exactly. So today we are doing a deep dive into a really fascinating document called Managing Toasts... Docs.
Huh.
And it basically proves that a flawless wedding reception isn't just about romance or, the aesthetics.
No, not at all.
It's actually about this rigid, completely invisible infrastructure. Because our mission today is to uncover the hidden mechanics of a flawless reception. We're looking at that crazy intersection of heartfelt human emotion and, well, cold, hard technical logistics.
Yeah, and that visceral reaction you just described, the wincing, the ruined moment, that's the exact disaster our source material is trying to prevent.
Right.
It treats the reception not just as like a casual family gathering, but as a precision-engineered live production.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. I mean, we invest incredible resources into the visual aesthetics.
Yeah.
The floral arrangements, the lighting, the wardrobe.
Thousands of dollars.
Exactly. But the actual narrative of the day, the stories that get told and remembered, they rely entirely on an invisible foundation of audio logistics and human psychology. If that infrastructure fails, the emotional resonance just, well, it collapses.
It totally collapses, which means we really need to understand how to amplify a speech with technology. But before we even touch a microphone, we have to understand the underlying architecture of the speeches themselves.
The structure, yeah.
We have to start with the emotional core. The planners behind this guide outline a very, very specific chronological order for the toasts. It's not just letting whoever wants to speak grab the mic while people eat their chicken.
Right. It's not an open mic night.
Yeah. It's a highly deliberate emotional arc.
It is, because the sequence is specifically designed to manage the collective energy of the crowd.
Okay, so how does it start?
Well, it typically begins with a welcome speech that's usually delivered by the host or the master of ceremonies.
Okay, so just setting the stage.
Exactly. It's purely functional. It sells the room, gets everyone's attention, and from there, you transition into the parents' toast.
Ah, okay. The heavy hitters.
Right. Because that anchors the entire event in family and tradition. It provides that necessary warmth, and frankly, it brings the sentimental tears.
It sets a baseline, right? Like a baseline of deep sincerity. Because if you started with the best man,
Oh, that would be a disaster.
the crowd just isn't warmed up yet.
Exactly.
But by placing the best man's speech third, after the parents, the energy can naturally shift. Tradition kind of dictates that the best man brings the humor, right?
Yes, the comic relief.
Yeah, releasing the emotional tension the parents just built up. And then the maid of honor steps in.
Right, to deliver a deeply personal, often profound tribute to the couple. That pulls the room back into this space of really beautiful emotional intimacy.
And then finally, to wrap it all up, the newlyweds take the floor with the couple's thank you speech, culminating the whole arc with just pure gratitude.
It's a calculated release of tension, you see. You have warmth, followed by tears, transitioning into laughter, returning to intimacy, and ending on gratitude.
It's a psychological roller coaster.
It really is. But here's the mechanism that makes that entire roller coaster actually work.
Right.
The constraint of time. The guide establishes this absolute, non-negotiable golden rule. Every single one of those speeches must be strictly limited to 3 to 5 minutes.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because a rigid 3 to 5 minute limit absolutely fascinates me. On paper, it sounds incredibly short for such a monumental life event.
It does seem fast.
But it makes me think of a perfectly produced pop song.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Think about it. If you look at a massive hit song on the radio, the producers know they have a tiny, tiny window. You have to get in, hit the verses, build up to that massive emotional chorus, and get out before the listener's brain gets bored and they just change the station.
Right, they skip the track.
Exactly. A 15-minute wedding speech, by contrast, is like this sprawling, improvised jazz odyssey.
Oh boy.
Like, it might be incredibly fun and cathartic for the person playing it, but the audience, they're completely lost in just checking their watches,
Waiting for the cake.
waiting for the cake. So if every speaker is capped at a strict 5 minutes, how do they actually balance the required humor and deep emotion in such a tiny window?
What's fascinating here is that the constraint itself is what breeds the creativity.
Wait, really? The constraint makes it better.
Absolutely. Think about it. When you are given 15 minutes, you can be lazy, you can ramble, you can stumble through like 3 half-remembered anecdotes, you can rely on weird inside jokes.
True.
But when you only have 3 minutes, you are forced to trim the fat. You have to find the absolute universal truth about the couple. And the source material strongly emphasizes that the key to hitting this tight window is mandatory rehearsal.
So you can't just wing it.
No, not at all. By practicing beforehand, the speaker isn't just memorizing words, they are physically mapping out the delivery of a genuine, really potent message.
It forces you to be a better storyteller. You just can't afford to meander until you find your point. You have to find the one perfect defining anecdote.
Exactly.
You deliver the punchline, you hit the emotional core, you invite the room to raise a glass, and then you sit down. You leave the audience wanting more.
And from a purely logistical standpoint, it preserves the schedule.
Oh, the timeline, right.
Yeah, if 4 people speak for 15 minutes each, you have just lost an entire hour of your reception.
Oh, wow. Yeah, the dinner gets cold.
The dinner gets cold, the band is just standing there waiting, and guest fatigue sets in. So the 3-minute rule is actually a psychological tool to maintain maximum guest engagement.
That makes so much sense. But let's transition from the poetry of the speech to the actual physics.
The hardware.
Yeah, because you can craft the most perfect, tightly wound, emotionally devastating 5-minute pop song of a speech. You can rehearse it in the mirror for weeks.
Okay.
But the moment you step up to the microphone, if the guests in the back row cannot hear you, or if the audio crackles and drops out, the emotional spell is instantly broken.
It's ruined.
The physics of the room will always overrule the poetry of the speech. We really have to look at the physical hardware.
We do. And moving from the emotional narrative to the technical execution is where most events actually fail.
Really. Just on the tech.
Oh, absolutely. Because choosing the correct hardware is not about just grabbing whatever microphone happens to be lying around in the venue closet.
Right.
The source actually breaks down 4 main categories of microphones, and each one is engineered for a very specific physical reality.
Okay, let's hear them.
So you have wireless microphones, which eliminate all that cable clutter
Yep.
and give you mobility. Then you have standard handheld microphones. You have lavalier or lapel microphones. And finally, static podium microphones.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because if you just read that list without understanding the mechanics of a live event, I mean, you would instantly choose the lavalier mic.
Right, it seems so sleek.
A tiny microphone clipped to your lapel sounds like the ultimate solution. It is entirely hands-free. The speaker can gesture naturally. They can hold their champagne glass in one hand, their notes in the other. It sounds perfect.
It does sound perfect in theory.
But pushing back on this, wouldn't clipping a highly sensitive microphone to someone's clothing be an absolute disaster at a dynamic event like a wedding reception?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are hitting on exactly why the source text subtly positions standard handheld microphones as the ideal choice for toasts.
Okay, so not the lapel mic.
Definitely not, especially when multiple people are speaking. Let's look at the mechanics of a lavalier mic. They are often omnidirectional and highly, highly sensitive.
Meaning they pick up everything.
Everything. They are designed for controlled environments, like a quiet television studio. At a wedding reception, that microphone is going to pick up the rustling of a heavy silk dress.
Oh, I didn't even think of the clothing noise.
It's going to pick up the clinking of silverware from the table nearby. And most importantly, weddings are highly physical events. After a beautiful toast, what usually happens?
The speaker hugs the bride or groom.
Exactly.
And that sensitive lapel mic gets completely crushed between two bodies.
Oh, yeah.
Just sending a horrible, muffled scraping noise through the entire sound system.
Precisely. Handheld microphones solve this because they actually match the physical choreography of the event.
That's-
Well, passing a handheld microphone from the best man to the maid of honor is a clear, deliberate visual signal to the entire room. It says, hey, the floor is being yielded.
Oh, it's like a baton in a relay race.
Exactly. The technology dictates the human behavior. When you hand someone a traditional microphone, they instinctively know they have to speak into it. And crucially, they know to hold it away from their body when they go in for that hug.
That makes perfect sense. You cannot expect your crazy college roommate to act like a seasoned television broadcaster. The gear just has to be idiot-proof.
It really does.
But the microphone itself is just like the very tip of the iceberg, isn't it? It's merely the entry point into a much larger, highly volatile ecosystem of sound.
Oh, the microphone means nothing without the speakers and the mixing board.
Right. So let's talk about the speakers, because the physical dimensions of the room dictate the physics of the sound you're trying to produce.
Yeah, the acoustic environment is the biggest variable planners face.
Yeah.
The source emphasizes that audio output must be scaled to the venue.
Scaled how?
Well, if you are in a massive, cavernous ballroom with high ceilings, you cannot simply place one giant speaker at the front and just blast the volume.
Because it'll be too loud for the front row.
Exactly. Sound waves dissipate and reflect. If you crank the volume from the front, you will physically deafen the guests at table 1, while the guests way back at table 20 hear nothing but muffled, echoing acoustic reflections.
So it just sounds muddy in the back.
Right. You have to strategically place multiple delayed speaker systems throughout the room to provide even coverage.
So it is about distributing the sound evenly rather than just increasing the sheer volume.
Exactly.
But the critical unsung hero here, the thing that connects that handheld microphone to those distributed speakers, is the mixer console.
A mixer, yes.
The source lists the mixer's benefits as, volume control, optimizing sound quality, and managing transitions. But I actually like to think of the mixer as an air traffic controller at a really busy airport.
An air traffic controller.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
Yeah. Think about it. Up in the sky, which is the audio mix, you have these massive jumbo jets. That's the heavy bass from the DJ's background music, taking up tons of airspace. You have little private planes zipping around. That's the high-pitched clinking of glasses. And then you have the best man's voice, which needs a completely clear runway so everyone can hear him land his joke.
Right. You can't have them crash into each other.
Exactly. The mixer doesn't just turn things up or down. By using EQ equalization, the mixer is acting like the air traffic controller, carving out physical frequency space.
It really is.
It tells the bass frequencies to, hold at a higher altitude, filtering out the rumble so the human vocal range of the best man gets a clear path to the runway. The mixer actively shapes the physics of the sound waves to prevent a collision.
That is a highly accurate way to describe frequency masking. The mixer prevents those audio elements from colliding. But if the mixer fails, or if the setup is flawed, you get the ultimate audio collision.
Which brings us back to that terrible screech we described at the beginning of the show, microphone feedback.
The absolute nightmare scenario.
What is actually happening physically in the room when that high-pitched squeal hits? Why does it happen?
Well, feedback is a literal infinite loop of sound. It happens when a microphone picks up the audio coming out of the speakers, sends it back through the amplifier, out the speakers again, and right back into the microphone.
Oh, wow.
And it happens at the speed of light. The system essentially hears itself, magnifies a specific frequency loop, and overloads the amplifier. That's what creates that unbearable 10,000 hertz screech.
So how do you stop it?
To prevent it, the physics are simple but very strict. The microphone must always remain behind the physical line of the speakers.
Which means if your best man decides to get theatrical and goes for a stroll out onto the dance floor, and he walks in front of the main speakers while holding a live mic, he is instantly going to trigger that loop.
Instantly. And that is exactly why the source text emphasizes comprehensive sound checks.
Right.
But notice, it doesn't just say test the equipment. It specifically mandates testing the equipment several hours before the guests even arrive.
Several hours.
Yes. You are mapping the microphone range, checking for those feedback dead zones, balancing the EQ, and hiding your backup batteries.
I really want to focus on that specific timeline because that gap of time is revealing to me. Why several hours, in an event with a million moving parts, why not just test the audio 30 minutes before the doors open when the room is basically set up anyway?
Because troubleshooting the physics of sound is rarely a quick 5-minute fix.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. Imagine you do your sound check 30 minutes prior, and you discover that a specific acoustic reflection off a giant glass window is causing a massive feedback loop.
Oh, just from the glass.
Yes. To fix that, you might have to physically move heavy speaker stands to completely different corners of the room. You might discover a bad cable that requires running a new line 50 feet across the floor.
Which you can't do with people there.
Exactly. If you are doing that while guests are walking in, holding their drinks and trying to find their seats,
Sure.
you completely shatter the illusion. The entire goal of professional production is absolute seamlessness.
You want the guests to walk into that room and just feel like the environment naturally, effortlessly sounds perfect.
Right.
Because if they see some technician sweating through their shirt, desperately taping down a cable while the bride's father is trying to speak, the magic is just gone. The technical foundation has to be completely invisible, so the human emotion can take center stage.
Which brings us to the final and honestly, undoubtedly most difficult phase of this entire operation.
The people.
The people. You have your perfectly engineered timeline. You have matched your handheld microphones to the physical space. You've carved out your EQ frequencies, mapped the feedback zones. You've hidden your backup cables.
Check, check, check.
Now you have to get completely unpredictable, highly emotional human beings to actually interface with this technology and follow the rules.
The human logistics bridge. This is where the perfect plan collides with human nature.
It is.
And the source text takes a very proactive approach to wrangling these speakers. It recommends collecting details weeks in advance, like knowing exactly how long someone plans to speak.
Or if they have a surprise planned.
Right. If the maid of honor suddenly decides she wants to play an acoustic guitar, which obviously requires totally different audio inputs, you need to know that.
You absolutely need to know that.
But the part of the guide that really stands out to me is the actual coaching of the speakers. The planners advise giving the speakers explicit instructions. Hold the mic at the proper distance, stay within your 3 minutes, and this is crucial, avoid excessive inside jokes.
Yeah, the psychology behind banning inside jokes is fascinating.
Tell me about it.
Well, an inside joke